Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us going for over 350 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames Dude of the week is Tadashi047. Thank you, Tadashi.
Thank you, Tadashi.
And as always, we have a sponsor to thank. Of course, we're talking about Manscaped, and they launched a new, very badass product. They're no longer just taking care of your junk. No, now they're taking care of your face. I'm talking about the Beard Hedger, which they sent me one.
Look at that sexy looking thing.
And if you watched last week's episode, you know that I had grown my beard out a little bit in preparation to use some of this stuff. They've got the pamphlet, and I got to say, actually speaking pretty honest, the thing's fucking legit. There's a couple things that I really like about it, and if you're in the market for a beard trimmer, this has got to be on your list. But it's got this like dial here, and it goes from 0.5 millimeters all the way up to 10 millimeters, and it just like you can do it on the fly, and you can remove it to get like a super close deal too. But the reason why that jazzed me up is I've owned, I don't know, like 4 of these fucking things, like beard trimmers in general. And normally when you're doing your sideburns, if you have short hair like me, because I'm going bald, it's really hard to get the sideburn to like, you know, gradual into the side of your head. So it always looks like there's a line, and it can kind of look a little bit shitty. But with this, because it has like those 0.5 millimeter gradual build, I can kind of get my beard to match into how short I cut my hair on my head, and it just looks way cleaner. And because it's attached sort of mechanically in there, it works way better. Like it feels more solid going over your like chin and neck and stuff like that. But it comes with like a million fucking things for longer beards, which this time I went short to see how well it gets through my thick, coarse beard. But it's got like a beard brush, your beard comb. These work great. And then there's beard balms and beard conditioners like this in the kit. And so I haven't used them extensively yet, and I won't speak on them too much, but I use the beard oil a little bit. That's good if you shower and you get like dry patches. Your beard oil and your beard shampoos in the shower and stuff will help with that.
Ooh,
that's how you
shampoo.
It's just like a whole face. They literally are now taking care of you from like the top of your head down to the tip of your taint. But this kit is pretty damn good. Like I said, if you're in the market for
tip to shaft.
Yes. Tip to taint to nose to chin.
Lobes to chin, earlobes to chin.
But if you're in the market for it, I genuinely think this is one you should check out. And you can do that by going over to manscaped.com. And if you decide to grab one, you can use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. Your balls and now your chin.
Yeah, your chinny chin chin.
Well, thank you. So, the rest of the episode's all about bursting bubbles.
Yeah, so you
Not
actually
as
got
exciting
something that you honestly it blew your expectations away, like with how good the beard trimmer was. Like you legitimately, you told me straight up, like, this is the best one fucking beard trimmer I've ever used.
Yeah, this is fucking excellent. The thing is it's so silly how excited I was. Like I feel sort of like, you know, when you get giddy over like a new toy or tool.
Yeah.
Like that's how I was. And so here I am texting you when I'm using it, and I'm just, they got me. I'm in their ecosystem now.
Legit great product, but here's what's not so great, and it's not been a great day
for them
for free to play games. for gas games, live services, shit.
Someone
I mean,
say that the gas is running low.
Yeah, the gas is running out. I mean, like, it was already a bad month for a lot of Square Enix stuff, like Chocobo GP, Final Fantasy 7 First Soldier, Bravely Default Mobile.
It's been a particularly bad month for mobile.
Babylon's Fall and Avengers, and 2 more got added to the kill list today. One of which I didn't know I would have thought was doing well, and that was Apex Legends Mobile. That's getting shut down in May, which was I guess I don't keep up with mobile shit at all because mobile, but what people had told me was that a big problem with it was that they were charging you, the cosmetics you buy were like color palette swaps, and they were like really expensive color palette swaps.
Wow.
So what's the point?
Yeah, no, thank you.
And the other big one was Rumbleverse. And this was developed by Iron Galaxy, was pushed by Epic Games for the Epic Games Store. This getting shut down at the end of the month. Like end of February, it's gone. It just launched.
And you guys really liked it.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't really like I thought the idea sounded pretty cool, but I didn't really like the way the game played. I didn't like how it felt. Max enjoyed it pretty much. Max enjoyed it pretty good. Steve loved it. Kenny was a lot like me, where he's like, "This idea is cool, but man, I just can't. I don't know, like the feeling of the game, whatever." But
Steve loved it.
Steve did love it. Max really liked it, but it's dead in 4 months, kind of thing. Like,
yeah, it's sad.
Like it had a beta last fall, came out, I don't know, November or something.
It reminds me of that game that we went and played that I really liked. I think me and Steve really liked it, and everyone else sort of ambivalent about it.
Breakaway?
Yeah. Where we're the only light, and then it just kind of you petered out.
Yeah, it didn't even come out.
Yeah, it built up a bunch of steam and then just never got to pop it. That was the ultimate edging. I feel mostly bad for the devs of that because from the ones we met, they loved it. Like they really liked building it and they had a lot of fun with it. And then just never to get it released has got to be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I would imagine more heartbreaking than something that gets released for 4 months, but it is a similar boat where I imagine the devs are probably fucking devastated.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of finger pointing going on. A lot of people say this is mostly on Epic, because
really?
It was exclusively on Epic Game Store on PC. It was on console.
Oh, so they choked it from any audience.
Well, they choked it from Steam,
right?
Specifically.
Yeah, and the Epic Game Store sucks balls, so they choked it from any real audience. Like if you're not Fortnite, Epic Game Store sucks.
Yeah, it's a Fortnite launcher. Like the big to do or big whatever hubbub really was the fact that it was on console and you could play on console, but was this really enough time to really sit there and say the judge it this is a failure altogether? Probably. I imagine the numbers probably weren't great, but I think the most important thing about Rumbleverse is the fact that it's a free to play game, like Fortnite, like a lot of these battle royales, right? And it was ugly as fuck. It was ugly as fucking shit. It had dog shit ugly character designs.
Tell me how you really feel.
Just the absolute fucking word. It looked like humans from Barnyard.
Give me one positive
of the looks.
Yeah,
it had color.
All right.
It's colorful. It was like colorful sky and buildings and whatever, but I just said that epic cell shaded look, Unreal Engine cell shaded, like generic look otherwise.
Yeah, I sort of can't. I like cell shaded stuff, but the generic epics, it sort of reminds me. You remember that generic Unreal Engine, big hands, big feet thing that would happen for
Yeah.
There was like a stretch of games where everything made on that engine looked that way.
Unreal 3 with their like tree trunk limbs.
Yeah, what the fuck? God, I got so tired of that, and that's how I feel about the Epic cell shaded.
Yeah. Well, and the thing was like this had a very different looking character designs though. The character designs looked like something you'd find on like a kids menu at an Islands or a Chili's
Yeah.
or a TGI Fridays or like some Dick's Last Resort or something like that. Like it just looked like shit. It looked like the kind of shit you'd find on a pamphlet that your city hall would hand out to kids at school for recycling day. Be a superhero, recycle. Like it was just absolute shit character design.
Yeah, people who recycle are nerds.
Well, you know what I mean? Where like they try
Fuck
to
the
like have like
planet.
this really like goofy
I know.
character superhero. I'm Recycle Man. If you were save the trees, Jimmy.
See, audience, dear listeners, he's making fun of me because he knows I grew up wanting to become Recycle Man. It's all I ever wanted. And like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Captain Planet's the shit." No, but Recycle Man at IHOP, he was my hero,
Yeah.
and that's it,
So
it crushes me that he's
the
gone.
point I'm getting at here is that the game was free to play. You could download it and play it for free. So how does it make any money? Through Battle Pass and cosmetics. And Battle Pass just what does it do? It gets you other costumes or costume
Right.
pieces. When your game character design is butt fuck ugly, who is going to want to pay real world money for some shit ass looking character? Everyone in the game looks like shit. Like there's and terribly enough, like one of the things people were doing in the early launch build is they would get a character that was just super skinny and would just hide and stuff because like it had all these like extreme proportions: super skinny, super buff, super fat. And that was your three character types. And they get super skinny people and they just go and like hide in like bushes or whatever.
Well, that's coming to a war zone near you. They've got a ghillie suit character coming out that's the smallest woman in the game, and then the ghillie suit is actually fairly effective. So you're just gonna have a bunch of people hiding in the marshlands in Warzone 2.0.
So yeah, I just and I'm going to be brutally honest here. If the only way you make money is through aesthetics, you have to make good aesthetics.
Right.
Like yes, good gameplay triumphs all, but the thing is, you're not buying this game. Everyone's getting the game for free.
There has to be something that makes you want to even look at the game.
The only way you make money is by getting people to buy a cosmetic, a visual difference. And when the visuals are trash, who's going to buy? And I think that's probably what really killed Rumbleverse. Now I feel bad because I think someone once said like, "Oh man, poor so and so," like literally named like the artist who's a character designer. And granted, it's like it's a little harsh to say like, okay, well, I'm shitting all over these character designs. Guy can draw better than I ever will in my life. He's a better artist than me, but I do not like your character designs. I think they look like crap. And I think this proves it right here because they didn't even wait 6 months to look at the sales of the cosmetics on this shop and go, we're earning no money. We're probably just losing money by hosting this game on our servers for free and making $0 off of it, keeping people employed to make updates to it, to moderate the game and stuff like that. Like literally bringing in no money because nobody wants to buy these dog shit looking characters. So
yeah, I mean that's got to be depressing, or a depressing sort of criticism on your art style too. I guess that's rough. The thing is I can't mourn it too much because games as a service is just the thing that.
Yeah, because and that's something that gets thrown around a lot. I think is like people kind of say like there's too many games, there's too many multiplayer games. It just got choked. Like the market's too chock full of it. And I think
that could be true too.
And I think there's truth to that. I think that is true. But I think there was a lot of BRs that came out right around PUBG and Fortnite as they were taking off, and they died out pretty quickly too. I mean, Warzone's not healthy. It's not like Warzone was sucking up any air in the room for BRs. So
yeah, we're gonna know whether or not it's gonna survive by the end of February. That's all I'm saying.
So, I don't even think in like Fortnite exists, and hell, I'm kind of playing that right now just to sort of like to kill time. But it's not like I don't think Fortnite's at its peak of popularity or anything right now. You know, where are people gravitating to? Well, they're not gravitating to Rumbleverse. They're not going there. I mean, people talk about how hard like multiverses fell off too, um, which I could also kind of attribute to a very similar thing where it's like, well, your character appeal was so broad, but it's also kind of like, name me a kid outside the '90s who's going to be excited for Marvin the Martian.
Ouch. Well, do you think BRs are just dead in general? Do you think BRs are coming to an end?
No,
I don't.
no, I don't think so. I honestly think it really boils down to your shit's got to look appealing. If you're not, if you're not paying money to buy into the game, if you're just letting everyone play the game for free, and the only way you make money is through cosmetics, it's got to be your cosmetics have to be appealing.
Yeah,
Like, this is like turning into the fashion industry in a way, because now it's about like selling the most visually aesthetically pleasing looking thing you can have.
right. How cool can you look?
Yeah, and it comes down to one of two things: how cool does this make me look? How much do I want to fuck this character on screen? And that's how, and basically Fortnite's basically does both, and they're hyper successful.
It does. I don't think
Granted,
I've
that's
ever seen a
also,
Fortnite character where I was like, I am gonna fuck that.
well, I'm sure someone out there is like
I
the
can't
world
think
is
of a
full.
Fortnite character off the
The
top of my
world's
head.
full of degenerates. I mean, they throw like X-Men characters in there, like Rogue and like
Oh,
Chun-Li, and like
Ro-
Chun-Li has like this.
Rogue can get it.
Yeah, Chun-Li has like this dump truck ass in Fortnite and stuff. So like,
Chun-Li never skips leg day, bro.
and it's third person, so they know what they're doing.
You know what my big complaint about Chun-Li is, by the way, is they make her like super fast when she's hauling around a dump truck ass like that. Like, she's not going over 55 in any lane.
Well, if you got big old giant beefy muscles in your leg, you're probably not running a lot. You're probably lifting a lot with them.
You know what it is you see those like Olympic speed skaters or whatever that like they have these big beefy legs and they're just like the skinniest, most anemic upper body. That's what Chun-Li would look like in real life, and I'm not sure that's sexy.
No,
I don't know
no,
about that.
it's not. But again, you and I are not people who buy something like that on Fortnite for those reasons. We go there and, oh shit, Gambit, awesome. Oh, Han Solo, yeah, I'll get a Han Solo.
Right.
You know,
I'd be
like,
tempted for Rogue. I like to play a battle thought. I like to drop in hot as a battle thought.
she's been in and out of the store recently.
Yeah, but then I
We
would
have
have
like
to play
Marvel days
Fortnite.
lately.
And...
Someone bought me Thanos. Dylan, if you're listening, thank you for
Oh,
the
hell
Thanos.
yeah.
And
But
I
anyway,
bought Beerus. I bought Beerus from Dragon Ball Z just because I think Beerus looks cool.
Beerus is the cat guy, right?
Yeah, he's a big Egyptian cat god looking
Okay.
guy. So
Yeah.
I'm like this, and I'm like, okay, they look cool. You know, like Kenny, before any one of us played Fortnite, they put Blade in the game. And Kenny bought it. He started playing Fortnite, and he literally had to title his stream like, I see Blade, I purchase. I'm not apologizing.
I wouldn't apologize either.
You know,
Like
just,
the thing I have about Fortnite is I'm not sure. I guess Blade would look cool in Fortnite's art style.
some of
Rogue
them
would
actually
look
turn
cool.
out pretty well. Aloy looked really good in the game.
Really?
Yeah, Aloy actually turned out really well for like transitioning to the Fortnite art style.
Okay.
I was actually kind of impressed.
Was bad?
There have been some bad ones. Like Hulk is like too small.
How do you make Hulk? Well, I guess if you played a real
Because
size
everyone has
Hulk.
to be like a certain size. Because if they made Hulk that big, you would lose every game.
Well, not if they let you jump super far and smash. That's all I'm saying.
Well, characters don't have unique abilities though.
But he should. He should be special.
And then was Guile. Guile looked like shit in the game.
Really?
Like Guile looked really off. Very odd.
I would sort of love playing as Guile in a game like that.
I mean, you can look at it and see how you feel about it. But I remember, yeah, when Guile got introduced, everyone was kind of like, Guile looks a little weird.
What about Cammy? Did they bring Cammy in?
She's in, but she does not wear her classic costume.
Well, I mean, for obvious reasons. Like, you can't have that much cheek out in front of kids trying to give a bunch of 13-year-old boys boners randomly. Huh?
Well, apparently, from the people I play with, they said there was a point where like they were kind of at the beginning leaning into it a little more, and then when it blew up really hard with children, there was a cutoff point, and they stopped, and they actually like there was some point they took jiggle physics out of the game. So
no, I can understand that.
But
I wonder if BRs are dying because I don't think BR as a format is dying. I just think Warzone dropped the ball so bad that people are kind of like, well,
I think the other thing too is like, okay, like to swing around to a sort of different area, Blackout, which I still actually will play. I loved the variety of characters they would throw into that game. There was pirates, there was robots, there was like robot ninjas, there was Vikings at some point, techno Viking and stuff like that. Danny Trejo showed up,
right?
And it's like I love that aspect of it, where it's like there's just so many crazy different. Like it's still sort of a kind of a realistic game, but it's like they had fun with it. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna throw like samurais in it and ninjas and pirates and da 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 da. And I was like, oh yeah, this is really fun. Warzone never did that. Warzone kind of did that. Kind of sort of started to eventually. And then as it was getting some of its most fun stuff, it started to go away. Like I got the gorilla suit. Because of the big throw it came with, and there was like a hoodie that was sort of Godzilla design, so they're starting to have a little bit of fun with that. But it was funny to see how the most bought characters in Warzone were the movie characters. Ghostface,
right,
from Scream. I think 11,000 people, like 30 million people bought Ghostface. Ghostface was everywhere. They had Ghostface, you had Judge Dredd, you had John McClane, you had Terminator, you had a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface. People were buying that shit. People were enjoying that's kind of the other thing, is like good collabs too, where it's like, okay,
right.
like throw this famous character in here, and people were gravitating towards it. Rumbleverse, people are kind of complaining how like we didn't even get to a point where they could get some wrestlers in there, like that would have been great. John Cena, wherever the fuck, I don't know. Though from what I understand, wrestling's not in a good place anyways right now.
It's sort of limping along is what I understand about it.
Yeah.
Although I've never been super into wrestling, but I do know that like right now it's having a hard time. They don't have any particular like big characters. Like when we were kids, Goldberg or The Rock, or like just really like,
yeah, well, because like there's like the golden age of Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage,
right?
And then that led later into there was stuff with like Razor Ramon and whatever, but then like you got to Stone Cold Steve Austin,
right?
The Undertaker, right, and shit like that,
where a lot of them could transfer into movie stars purely because they were such big personalities. That's falling off, I guess, this kind of a thing, which is too bad, really, because both John Cena and like Dave Bautista are both like fucking great.
Yeah, it was kind of like there was something I read where Dave Bautista was actually kind of lamenting the fact he's like, yeah, I don't know, I just look in the mirror, I'm like, I guess I'm just too ugly for like rom-coms. He's like, I'd love to be in a rom-com.
Well, like, I think wants to act. Like he wants to do like a range.
I think Dave Bautista could kill it in a rom-com.
I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think he's not, fucking Josh Duhamel type. Like he doesn't have that kind of boyish look that tends to be good.
Right. I mean, obviously you're not going to get like, the young naive kid kind of like, whatever look, or the cute but socially awkward Hugh Grant out of him, but
yeah. Although, you could get something similar to like The Tooth Fairy, which isn't really a rom-com, but it's like it's in that same genre of like gooiness. You could get that. You could get some gooey out of Dave Bautista. I'd believe that.
I'd actually like to see more into like he was in Dune, but he's basically playing Nemesis from Resident Evil in that movie. But the Zephyr Morton in Blade Runner for only the opening scene, it's like I'd love to see more like sort of like slow build dramatic.
Right. Yeah.
Roles
Well,
out of him.
he tends to stand out. Like I think he's proving himself as an all-around actor just in general, but
Yeah.
he's also built like a Mac fucking truck. So, they're not going to cast him in any fucking Timothy Chalamet roles, like he's not going to get any fucking
Yeah.
heartthrob roles necessarily. But sorry, that was a total deviation from the topic. So gas is just kind of running out. We're running out of gas. And part of me's giddy about it.
Yeah, I'm very giddy. I'm actually very happy. I just think, look, there's only so many hours in a day for anyone, to spend on anything. So again, if someone has a dedicated account for Destiny, there's no reason for them to leave Destiny. There's no reason for them to leave Rainbow Six Siege. There's no reason to leave Final Fantasy 14 or World of Warcraft.
Especially because Destiny I don't know about Final Fantasy 14, but Destiny especially is like giving them updates that they want.
Yeah.
Like people
and
are
that's
generally
again
happy
that I think that kind of goes back to what I'm saying, where like it's like the fashion industry now. You gotta give people something they want to buy, like cosmetically. Like Destiny is not so much about the cosmetics, but about raids and content updates that people want. Which, and I think that's something I think a lot of companies have found a really difficult time figuring out, like what is it people want, and Warzone's in this trap too, where it's like took away the mode everyone kind of really liked, and then no one wanted to play your fucking boring ass BR, and their not solution, but their alternative is Escape from Tarkov Light, which
also has raids.
Escape from Tarkov exists and has existed. So your alternative is to offer a lighter version of something that's already been in existence and is existed, frankly, well for years. So, like, yeah, I think for one thing, I would love to see companies who are not gas companies stop making gas games. That goes for like, Crystal Dynamics.
Yeah, Squeenix.
Or BioWare, with like shit like Anthem and shit like that. Like, stop just throwing anyone you can platinums to. Like, stop throwing people on live service games who've never done a live service game. Like, stop trying to make it happen, kind of thing. Shit, Halo.
Well, it's kind of like
example.
They look at it like they look at any successful gas game as like, oh, as long as we make a gas game, we're going to print money, rather than as long as we make a really good game, we're going to print money. Whatever the model is for printing money, you still have to make a really good game.
Yeah.
So taking people who don't make gas games and ask them to make a gas game because you think that's what's going to print money versus just asking people who are really good at this type of game to make that type of game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's one area where it's like Platinum and BioWare, their games weren't good. So
well, that's what I mean though, is because Platinum doesn't make gas games or live services games. Asking them to make live services games is going to get you a bad game most of the time.
Yeah.
If that's like going to Blue Point and asking them to make an action platformer and hoping that it'll be as good as what
you make a platformer, you'll do fine.
It's just like, what the fuck? The other thing is like 99% of any type of corporation, any type of company is always chasing what is currently successful. And usually it's like there's one company for a given period of time sort of nails what people wanted and they're ahead of the game. Your Fortnites or your Blue Point. I think it's Blue Point, right? Or Blue Hole makes
PUBG. Yeah.
Blue Hole. Yeah. Asking them to, when BR does finally die down and they've got to shift towards whatever, they're not going to be the guys that find the next hot thing.
Yeah.
It'll be someone else makes, a game that like really nails it. And then you're going to see those companies be like, oh, well, we can do that. And everyone will be making fun of them for chasing the zeitgeist too, Right now, it's just like, I think any company that wasn't already making BRs is probably making, or games as a service is probably making a mistake trying to hop into it now, because I think we're reaching the end of that.
It's like jumping into crypto right now.
Well, I don't want to get the crypto bros on me. No matter how much of a waste of time it seems like. Currently. But speaking of
Rumbleverse I think is in a different case where it's like nobody who played Rumbleverse would tell you it was a bad game. Like people who played Anthem and Babylon's Fall would tell you they weren't good games, like to begin with. Rumbleverse is kind of in this sad state where it's like it's actually really well liked by the people who played it, but the people who played it would never defend the character designs either.
And also probably weren't spending any money on it.
That's it, and that's exactly it. Is like you can't release a battle royale with a set price right now. I think that's suicide. I think the success of PUBG is free to play. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe it's not.
I think PUBG is free to. No, I think actually I had to buy PUBG.
I don't know. Fortnite is free to play.
Right.
Warzone is free to play when it was good, when it's bad. And I think those successes have already kind of made it like nobody's going to buy a battle royale or a live service game like that, especially not at $60. So you've already kind of got that going against you.
If you have to buy more characters all the fucking time, or worse, have to buy weapon packs, then nobody's going to buy it.
And there were like attempts at games where it's like, okay, the game costs $60, but all the characters we add in will be free. I think Avengers tried to go that route, where it was like you buy the game and then like characters come in and you get the characters, but like any extra costumes for the characters you will have to buy. And that's true for anyone.
Well, like Blackout costs money.
Yes.
And they had new modes. Like they had that zombie mode, which I really liked. And like if they did that zombie mode in Warzone, Warzone 2, Warzone 2's map would be sort of interesting for a zombie mode. Warzone 2 is adding in that castle island and stuff. But like I think that if you're going to charge $60 for it, then it has to be really fucking solid, and you can't release something that crashes every 3 games. But
which is also another problem with live service games, that they need constant maintenance. Constant maintenance, because every time you introduce something, you risk breaking the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that there is a way that you could do a Blackout these days. You could charge to play the game. I think the promise would have to be pretty high. With a free to play game, the hook is almost always just the like, what do you have to lose?
Yeah, I don't know if charging even is viable anymore, but I definitely don't think it's $60. But I think, say like you release a game like Blackout, right? I would release the game, and the thing that was nice about Blackout was that if you were good at the game, you could earn cases pretty easily. Cases are just basically like you get enough cases, and you can use cases. It's a currency to buy characters, or you could spend real world money on them. It was both. Now that usually means that you got to grind forever and ever. That wasn't true in Blackout. If you were good at the game, it wouldn't take all that long. If you were really good, like you could get dubs, it wouldn't take that long to get enough to get a character. The problem is that the character would only be in the shop for like a day or two or whatever. So, they would FOMO you into like buying it with real world money. And then you just be like me, who I ended up with hundreds and hundreds of cases. And the most expensive thing was $60. Most things were 30 or 20, and I had hundreds of cases. So I could just, any day I'm in there, if I just see something I like, I just whip and grab it. Like, because I was good enough and was getting high enough placements and rankings and wins that it's like, as long as I wasn't like dedicated to getting something the day I saw it or whatever, I could just have this bank account of fake money, to just grab the characters they showed up.
Which is probably why they stopped doing that.
Probably why they stopped doing it, because it wasn't probably weren't making gobs and gobs and gobs of money. But the thing that kind of was nice about it too, or what I think would make this work better, is don't plan this giant roadmap of updates.
Right.
Like, just make whatever 1 or 2 modes or maps you have, make them solid as fuck. Just make sure it's solid, it's really good. And then the only thing you're going to periodically keep adding is new skins. Right?
Right.
Maybe the most you can do is you can rotate what the ground loot is. Like the rarities or whatever, like stuff like that. Like, but you don't. There's this weird need where it's like, well, we got to do this thing where we drastically alter the map constantly, or we do. The worst is how they keep adding and removing modes.
Right. Yeah.
That's, I think, to me, I think that's the big killer for Warzone, is the constant like shuffling of actual modes, and like they take away a mode you like, give you a mode you don't like, or worse, sometimes is they introduce a mode you do like, and like it's only going to be around for 3 weeks and it's gone.
Yeah, you'll never see it again.
Fuck.
Right. But speaking of other bubbles bursting, for the back half of the episode, we should talk a little bit about the news from E3.
Yikes.
Yeah,
so
we should say up front that I think we called this on an episode in the past where we talked about like what could kill this E3 is like, would anybody show up?
Yeah, I think
no. The answer is none of the main companies will show up.
The answer is no. So yesterday it broke, but it wasn't confirmed.
Now it's confirmed.
Now, well, it's still not technically not confirmed, but Andy Robinson in a Digital Foundry podcast, latest and from Digital Foundry's latest podcast, they mentioned the Switch Pro was in the works. Still, Nintendo canceled the entire project. Blah 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 blah. I think I'm in the wrong story here. That's another story we will get to, though. Actually, that's part of the reason. Sorry. Okay, forgive me. I forget who broke it yesterday. Someone broke yesterday the news story that Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony weren't going to be at E3.
IGN is the first place I saw it.
Right. And then Andy Robinson backed it up. And then, yeah, I think IGN was the one who broke it. You're right. IGN broke it yesterday. It basically said the big three, none of the big three are going to show up. Some people were kind of shocked at this. I'm like, the only one that's news is Nintendo. Because before the pandemic, Sony hadn't gone to E3 the last 2 actual E3s. The last 2 E3s were 2018 and 2019. They haven't had E3 in 3 years.
Right. And 2019, they sort of douched out and showed like their booth was the 2 games they already had releasing within like a month, right? Wasn't 2019.
I don't even think they had any booth. They had no booth in 2019 or 2018. Like,
what was the last year where they had like they were given like the entire second hall, and they had
2017.
They had the big Death Stranding and Spider-Man, yeah. And I think we even talked about on the pod, like their booth was shit that they had the year before too.
Yeah.
It was just one big nothing burger of a booth.
2017, I believe, was the last time Sony was at E3. And yes, they weren't there in 2018 or 2019. So they're already gone. Microsoft hasn't gone to E3 in years because they bought the fucking LA Live theater across the street. So they were always just across the street doing their own thing, because they didn't have to pay anything.
Yeah, but they weren't technically at E3, but they were fucking at E3. They just found a way to give the finger to...
You just had to walk across the street to their own personal venue.
Right.
But Nintendo was the last of the big holdouts to have a booth. And this scared me yesterday. Because I heard that and I'm like, oh God, has arrogant Nintendo really come to roost here? Like they're so successful. They rode this pandemic so fucking well. They basically said, I don't need to fucking talk to anyone ever. I'll release information when I fucking feel like it because you're going to buy it. I'm going to release a completely unfinished fucking product of a game and you're going to buy it 12 million copies in 3 days. Thank you, Pokemon Scarlet Violet. They know. They know there is nothing they can do. Like I said, Miyamoto could eat a fucking baby like on stage and people would still pray, would still bow at his feet and kiss his shoes. Like there is nothing they can do to their fandom to stop them from fucking just giving them all their money. And to me, that's the scariest thing is like, oh shit, Nintendo's out of E3. Oh God, have they gotten so arrogant that they know they don't even need to show up anywhere ever?
But isn't the reasoning one? I think it's ESA burnt all of their bridges.
That is a very good point.
Two, I think
doxing thousands of people was probably not a great call.
Yeah, I still get bullshit from that. The other thing is the back half of the year sort of light for everybody?
And that's what came out today, right before our podcast from Andy Robinson. And then IGN also corroborated this. IGN understands that Nintendo and Xbox were initially interested in having a presence at the event, but that both had to pull out for reasons unrelated to the show itself. Video Game Chronicle has since reported that Nintendo opted not to take part in the event due to a light second half release schedule, not justifying the event space. Information that IGN can corroborate.
Right. So Nintendo is saying that out loud, but Microsoft is in the same boat, basically. Like,
yeah,
Nintendo's admitting it because they have the slimmest docket in the world, or the slimmest slate.
That actually scares me in a different way. Because yesterday I was just scared, like, oh God, Nintendo is just riding this arrogant wave of like, I don't ever have to talk about it. Now it's kind of like maybe they know that just like we don't have anything for the Switch this year. Because here's the thing, and I'll tell you, here's something I can say. Those booths cost about $5 million.
At least
to build, approximately, and
to build
that was years ago. Inflation and who knows now, like it probably could be like double that.
Well, that ESA was charging like by the square foot in the dumbest way.
So you're talking about booths that would cost millions of dollars to build and tear down, and you're only showing it off for 3 days, right? And what do you build if you're Nintendo? Like, this is the scary part where it's like, oh shit, they really don't have anything after Zelda, do they?
I mean,
Zelda's their swan song, isn't it?
And granted, I'm sure Zelda's going to do really well, but okay. The optimist me is like, oh, it would be so cool if they had like one big Zelda themed booth. But is that one?
But it's
already
out.
Zelda's right.
It's out in May, so
it's out. But they know it's going to do well. They don't have to. Like, Zelda's the least necessary game to advertise, or advertising Zelda is the least necessary thing they've ever had to do.
Yeah,
they don't have anything else. Microsoft they've got, what is it, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games coming out this year.
Well,
5 games after 5. One came out. One was a shadow drop.
Starfield is supposed to be by June of this year. According to last year, Microsoft at their event said all our games we showed will be out in 12 months, and Starfield's coming up on that 12-month mark in June. And here's where it gets really weird for me, because Redfall's coming out in May, and that's really close to June. I'm kind of surprised it'd be dropping 2 major first-party, both Bethesda games, back-to-back like that, which makes me think maybe Starfield is not ready. Now, there was a guy who leaked Hi-Fi Rush's release hours before it happened and said, if this does happen, I'll come back with what else I heard. And so he said, okay, well, this was real. Guess what? Like, here's what I heard. Redfall's in rough shape, but Starfield's in worse. And that's why Redfall is getting pushed to May, and then Microsoft wants Starfield out in June, but it's not ready, and the developers want to push back to November or something.
Ugh.
So
Ugh.
from what it sounds like Starfield's going to be exactly like every fucking mainline Bethesda game, and it's going to release in a very rough state, and then in a couple of years, modding community will fix it. Which I thought, to me, is like, well, this was always the case for it, but yeah, apparently it's just it's very chuggy. Like it's not like it just.
So when we said that, like Redfall, for instance, looks like it's moving real slow, Starfield has the same.
Yeah, apparently Starfield is like, no, like it chugs, like the frame rate
Oh,
hitches and
it
stuff.
just like it runs like absolute dog shit.
Yeah, apparently it just runs terribly.
Oh, God. The more they release about Starfield, the less exciting it is. It's one of those games where it's like the first time you see something, you're like, oh, fuck yeah.
Like a really big budget No Man's Sky, with like a lot of people working on it at once, unlike that game, which had to like build up to what it is today, right?
Right.
But then it's kind of like,
that's depressing. It makes me wonder, Sony. The other two are being honest, where they're just like, there's no reason, there's nothing on the back end.
Well, I mean, Nintendo didn't come out and state
arrogant,
this publicly, but it's like at this point, it's like public knowledge. If like,
right, you can,
if all these people are saying this is the reason that they can corroborate, it's basic. It's as close to confirmation as you can get, but it's not 100% confirmation. But it kind of is. Like, I don't think IGN, VGC, Andy Robinson, and other people would say, and I think Tom Henderson or someone else said like they had heard that this year was going to be a very light year for the Switch. And that tells two things. Obviously, one is they're kind of just they're putting Zelda out in May, which is right after the start of their fiscal, to sort of carry their fiscal. But it also means that there's no successor planned. Like if they're talking about a light year, because like you could say, oh, well, they're going to have a light year because they're going to have a Switch 2 in the fall, right? No, if they're like, we don't have anything to sell, so we're not even going to bother having a booth at E3. That's why you would have a booth at E3, is if you were going to launch a brand new Switch Pro or a Switch 2 in the fall. That's why you would that would be the perfect time to have a giant E3 booth. But if they're saying we don't have any product worth, that's worth the event space for the fall, that means you don't have a new system for sure. It also means you may not even have Metroid Prime 4, which I kind of thought was going to be the year. This fall, this was the fall of Metroid Prime 4. I was pretty sure this was going to be it. Like, yeah, this is when it'll come out. This is the time. Apparently not. And some people are saying, well, what about Pikmin 4? And I'm like, three people care about Pikmin 4. One of them's Miyamoto.
I really want this year to be solid as hell, and I want E3 to like actually be great. But what the fuck does E3 do if the big three aren't going to be there?
What does E3 do? I mean,
like, what are they going to have there? Is it?
One thing is you could just not use that one hallway that Nintendo and Sony were always in. You could just shut that down because you don't need it anymore, and it could all just be on the one side.
And it's all third parties.
I mean,
because Activision's not going to be there.
No.
Like, I guess what Gearbox might be there.
2K is always that fortress, and except for Borderlands 3, they're always that closed off fortress.
Right.
Don't let anyone in. I don't know. They're in trouble because, like, both Resident Evil 4 and Street Fighter 6 will be out by then. That optimistic window of all these what could possibly be coming in the later half of this year is starting to look like a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, it's looking like
a very front-loaded year.
Well, which isn't the worst thing, but holiday season is going to be really lame.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. This is sort of an aside, but actually it might be topical because another thing that you see on IGN and a couple other places, everybody's talking about, because Nintendo's dropping the ball on having a Switch 2, it's leaving open this field for Sony to step back into the handheld market again.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, I don't think Sony, who just yesterday had to publicly announce that they're cutting their forecast of VR2 in half.
Right.
their sales in half of what they expect to sell this year, I don't think Sony's in any good position to jump back into the portable market.
Well, oddly enough, something that I think is like Sony would do far better jumping into the portable market than it is doing in the VR market. Because they can't compete VR with the really VR, like the great VR
the
stuff.
good VR and that wireless VR and,
right.
and the
They
cheaper VR.
They're just not going to be able to grab the same audience. Just by nature of like they're going after console gamers who want an all-in-one experience.
Yeah, well, it costs more than a PS5 and requires a PS5,
right?
And is not backwards compatible with VR1 or any of those games. So
you have nothing but roadblocks. Whereas if they decide to jump back into the PlayStation Portable, like there is opportunity there. One, they have a loyal band of PlayStation addicts.
I think if they had put all their development resources into PSP2, let's call it PSP2. They're not going to call it Vita 2.
Right.
Let's say they wanted to make a PSP2 that was as powerful, at least, as a PS4. So they could at least have PS4 games.
Oh yeah,
on a portable system. You know, I think that's probably at least that at least puts it in line with a Steam Deck or something. I think they would have greater success. I don't know that they wouldn't beat the Switch or anything, but if they wanted to go in and say, "Hey, here's a high-end portable Sony system that we can put PS4 games that are beloved on it,"
right, and you make it you make it entirely solid state.
Even better is if they allowed cross play. You know how they have like free upgrades to like smart delivery, and everyone has a name for it.
Right.
If you own a digital copy of a game on PS4, you could download the PSP2 version of it. Now, they'd be losing a little bit of money doing this, but they'd also be gaining a lot of goodwill, and you'd probably get a lot more hardware sales because it's like, okay, I have all these games I bought digitally for PS4. You can freely download them onto the PSP2.
And say like you have PlayStation Plus, so you still get those PlayStation Plus games,
right?
That work on PS4, that kind of thing. Then on top of that, you can say, "Oh, we're the handheld guys that make your blockbuster games, but for handheld."
Yeah.
Whereas they have a way to differentiate their handheld from Switch now because Switch isn't trying to push any limits.
Yeah, and it's old as shit.
Right.
And Nintendo seems like not interested in fucking upgrading it.
So I do think IGN, I think it was IGN, has a point where like they have a real opportunity to do that, and they're not showing up to E3 this year, obviously, because they're not doing anything like that. But say E3 somehow survives long enough to go to next year, that might be the year of hardware.
I think the window might have passed. I think Sony should have done this instead of VR2, and it should have been coming out now. Instead of VR2 coming out in February, it should have been this. This would have done better.
I agree 100%. One thing that I saw,
even if it was $550 for a portable, but it played PS4 games.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, especially given that Sony manufactures screens, like they could put a killer screen on there too. There was a real opportunity, especially again, like I said, if you don't try to I loved the original PSP, UMD. Like I thought that was a cool fucking concept, but like these days with solid state, you just don't.
Yeah,
you don't need to. The other way that Sony could have like really differentiated is if okay, it's got killer Wi-Fi, but if you had USB-C so that you could plug direct, because you can get USB-C to Ethernet, it's just, and you can plug directly in for playing any hardcore online game, shit like that. Or it'd be dumb, but say I really want to play Fortnite, but I don't want to play on my shitty Wi-Fi signal on my PlayStation Portable or whatever.
Yeah.
They make USB-C Wi-Fi extenders. It looks like just like a big rabbit ear that pops up, and it just plugs into USB-C and pops up, and it makes your signal strength 10 times better. they make them for laptops out of USB-C.
Mm.
Like shit like that is where they could differentiate themselves from Switch enough to where I'm like, oh, Sony definitely missed an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
I don't think Microsoft could jump in because I don't think Microsoft has anything people give a shit about playing. But like you said, PS4 library, if they can make a handheld that can play PS4 quality games, Sony could dominate handheld for the first time ever.
They'd at least be in fighting, have a good fighting chance.
Yeah, I guess dominate's the wrong word because no one's ever going to dominate over the Switch in terms of sales at this point. But what I mean is like they could really jump in. Like
I think it's also this would have been the great time to do it, or even July or August of this year, or even the fall of this year after Zelda, because if that's true, I feel like Nintendo's doing the same fucking thing they did on N64 and on GameCube and on Wii and on Wii U, and that is they're just going, okay, they're going to let the last year of that system just
fizzle,
wither and die on the vine.
Gross.
Like because okay, Zelda's your last hurrah, and we're not really going to have much the rest of the year. So people play Zelda. What does that say to them? Fuck it. Like, all right, you beat Tears of the Kingdom. What's next? Great,
right? And Zelda's gonna do great. Zelda always sells well.
I mean,
maybe they'll have expansions. Like maybe they're planning to do some sort of DLC that they're planning to float into the back.
There was DLC for the first game, and it was kind of fun, but it wasn't meaty or substantial.
Right.
Man, there is the Xenoblade 3 DLC, which will be very big, but that's going to mostly be for us super turbo nerds, right? So, and I'm more excited for that myself personally. But yeah, like, bro,
the E3 bubble may finally really be bursting.
Well, and that's not. And it's funny because it sounds.
Well,
it's funny because it sounds like this isn't even necessarily E3's fault this time.
Right, but.
This is actually Nintendo basically being like fuck it mode, but like the implications of this are insane to me. Like
it's not E3's fault, but it is, right?
Doesn't want to keep momentum. Like you're literally gonna let the Switch fall out of public mind share for a fucking year.
Well, it's not even that I think I don't even think it's arrogance. I think that the shortages and stuff during the pandemic scared the hell out of them. And they tried to deal with that. But then when they realized they survived that, I think then it just became plain old complacency where it's not arrogance. They just feel like they're safe. And that's almost as bad in a lot of ways. This is letting things like the Steam Deck thrive. I don't think the Steam Deck's necessarily going to get market penetration enough to be a real competitor.
No, but it is.
But it is allowing for the Steam Deck to.
It's allowing it to get bigger than it. Like they could have negated the success of the Steam Deck heavily, but they're allowing it to get bigger than it would have been otherwise.
Yeah,
I find this crazy insane to think that Nintendo basically is just like, we don't have enough. Like you don't have enough, because I could see Nintendo building a whole fucking booth for Pikmin 4 and for Metroid Prime 4 and then a whole bunch of third-party indie shit. Like they did that in 2019. They had the big Luigi's Mansion and the big Pokemon, gym, and then in the back was that little corner for Zelda and then a bunch of third-party games. Like that was it. That was their whole booth.
Right. So they have to have so little that they're not even willing to do that.
So little they're not even willing to do that. Not. Maybe they came to maybe they just came to realize that Pikmin's not it. Pikmin's you can build a $5 million booth for Pikmin, but it's not going to do anything for the game sales. Same with Metroid is just the scariest one to me. Because I'm it's been 4 years. It's been 4 years since it transferred over to another company. They've had 4 years. They've got to have something to show for it. Jesus.
This either means that E3 is going to be one of the best years ever for third parties and indie games. Like, they're really going to get time to shine, or E3 is going to be a pile of shit this year.
It's
going to be
sounding like E for all right now.
It's going to be, oof. Oh,
They've got to be
again,
terrified right now of the other third parties basically just
right.
deciding to back out and be like, fuck it. Like,
Well, who's the biggest third party that would still be going?
The
EA?
big ones would be Ubisoft. Well, EA stopped going years ago because they started doing their EA Live thing.
Right, that's right.
So Ubisoft, which
they're not going to. They don't have anything worth going
they're
for.
They're not doing great money wise right now.
Right.
Capcom, which unfortunately both RE4 and Street Fighter 6 will be out by then.
So what are they going to show? Yeah,
probably the next Monster Hunter game, I'd imagine. This could be big enough. Namco, which will have Tekken 8.
Okay.
Square could have a big booth if say Final Fantasy 7-2 is far enough along to show, and 16 will be not out yet but about to come out. It'll be coming out like 2 weeks after the show,
so it could be a big moment for that.
You could have a big 16 moment, and they could have like a little tease for 7 Rebirth. Those are some big ones. Embracer Group / THQ Nordic, they've got to have they have so many things they own. They probably have enough to show a booth, but I don't know if they really go. They have been, but they've never had a big presence. Usually they just have meeting rooms above.
Right. And CD Projekt Red's not going to be there.
No. And everyone else is bought up. Activision will either be just cock blocked by Sony from getting bought, or they're going to be finalizing the deal with Microsoft.
They're not going to be there. Bethesda obviously not going to be there.
Yeah, because it's Microsoft.
Yeah. No, that's
so you're looking at, and Sega might be. I don't know. It depends on the state of where Sega's projects are at that point, which I don't even really know. So you're looking at a couple maybes, about 3. Capcom, Namco, Square would potentially have a good reason to be there. Ubisoft is like, if they can afford it, which who knows, maybe not. Yeah, and then it's sort of a hodgepodge if they can get anyone else to show up. Like maybe can you get 2K to show up? Can you get THQ Nordic to show up? Like, will Sega have enough to talk about?
Like, right. And if 2K shows up, what do they have? Like, I don't think they have anything coming out that they're going to like do 100 demo units again.
Yeah.
Which was brilliant. It's the best thing they've ever done, but still.
Yes, it was. WB Games is actually an interesting one because they would potentially have a reason to be there, because I think Suicide Squad may not be out yet, and they have the Wonder Woman game they're supposed to be making.
Oh, that's right.
And there is the NetherRealm, the Mortal Kombat, or God knows whatever more NetherRealm's making. It has to be ready by then.
Okay, so
WB Games could have a big booth there potentially.
And there might be, because Reed Pop is the one running it, there might be like
a lot of indies
and stuff to do.
Yeah.
Especially if they're going to have a lot of the public.
And they could even bring in like tabletop gaming stuff in there too.
And panels.
Yeah, and that's not bad, I don't think.
No, that wouldn't be bad. They could do industry panels and stuff where you get like cool interviews done in front of audiences for like big developers and shit.
I think the biggest thorn in the side will be the fact that Jeff's still having his show. And yesterday he literally tweeted out, "Hey, join us, June 8th for the Summer Games Fest."
Yeah. Oh, Jeff.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I think he doesn't give a fuck anymore. Well, he had that sort of minor falling out with ESA, right?
Yeah, because and we kind of learned it was because of like that really weird, like scummy plan they had where they were going to basically like the whole like try to the big advertising E3 plans they had that got leaked. It's like, I'm pretty sure Jeff saw that and was like, no.
No, thank you. That is the 2 major bubbles that got burst this week.
Yeah, bubble.
It's sure seeming like there's going to be some more bubbles bursting. But to end on an absolutely positive note, the screen's coming out about RE4 Remake. It looks pretty fucking tasty.
I almost don't want to see any more. Like, yeah, part of me is just kind of like, I'd be okay with a media blackout for the rest of this game until I get the finished game.
I'm excited for it. I'm so excited for it. I almost was like, maybe I'll stream it for come back to stream it for the first time in 1.5 years, 2 years. I don't know. But it's really, it looks good. Apparently,
very nice.
You can't stuff Ashley into any garbage cans or anything anymore.
Yeah, no the stuff they said about Ashley actually has me worried that I think you're gonna over design this, because Ashley was not a problem in the original game unless you absolutely sucked at the game.
Right. Yeah.
So some of the stuff they're talking about with her is almost like worrying. It's like, we're going to try to make it more of a dynamic, have more stuff going on, make it like, no, please don't. Please,
it's going to be one big escort mission for real.
No, that was the joy of Ashley. She was always right there and she would duck when you aimed in her direction.
Here's hoping that truly ends up being as good as it looks.
I'm not happy about knives having durability either, but
what the fuck is with these guys and durability? Just let the knife be the knife, you know?
Yeah. They say you can do well. The only positive I can say on that is they're like, yeah, you can carry multiple knives because they have durability. They're like, you can knife only the game. They said it is possible to do a knife only run. I'm like, all right.
Try it?
So the game has been designed as a possibility to do a knife only run. That's nice.
I'm excited for it. But we've got patrons to thank. As always, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Dude of the week was Tadashi047. Thank you so much. And our producers for this episode are Scrunami, Kuroi35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes. And we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.